want to start with her arm. Because that's the part she still won't talk about. There were 9 of them, 9, living under her skin, feeding, and she knew exactly how many because she'd counted them in the dark with her fingertips. She couldn't look at them. She said if she looked, she'd stop. She was 19 years old. 9 days earlier, she'd weighed 51 kilos. 11 marks. 1 for every morning she woke up, and the forest hadn't finished with her yet. This is day 11. Hold that face. We're going to come back to it. This is where it happened. 10,000 square kilometers of forest with nothing in it. No roads, no signal, no one. From up here, it looks peaceful. It looks like a screensaver. And this is her grandmother, 81 years old. She'd been sitting on that step since Tuesday. She'd made the food on the Tuesday. She kept making it, every day. For 11 days, she set that second plate. The last thing Bia ever did before the river was try to call her. She was outside hanging washing. She didn't hear it. She's never forgiven herself for that, and she's 81. They searched for 4 days. Boats, aircraft, 40 volunteers off the river villages. And every single one of them was looking in the wrong place. The river had already carried her 4 kilometers past where anyone thought to start. On day 5, they stopped, and a man in an office wrote 2 words on a piece of paper. They came and told her grandmother that she was gone, and she said, "Thank you," and then she sat back down on the step. Because here's what nobody knew. She wasn't dead. She was 600 meters from that river, on her feet, and still going. For 11 days, the whole world was wrong about her. Everyone but one person who kept setting that plate. So this is the story of what she did with those 11 days. And the strangest part is that it comes down to this. A plastic hair clip that cost about the price of a loaf of bread. "9 hours. That's how long the trip was supposed to take. A cargo boat carrying fuel and rice, and 4 passengers who paid cash and slept on the deck. That's her. Beatriz Moraes, 19. Everyone called her Bia. She was going upriver to see her grandmother, a village of 80 people. She'd done it every dry season since she was 6. 40 times she'd made that trip. She could name the bends. That's the detail she keeps coming back to. And then, at 4:10 in the afternoon, the sky changed. In that basin, a storm can build in 11 minutes. 11 minutes from nothing to that. The pilot did exactly what he should have done. He turned into it. I want to be clear about that. Nobody was careless. Sometimes it's just the river.
Look out, it's going over! Grab the rail!
She says the only thing she remembers about that first minute is that the water was warm, like a bath somebody left too long. And she remembers thinking very clearly, this is such a stupid way for this to happen. The Juhua in flood carries whole trees. It carried her 4 kilometers in 28 minutes. The other 3 were found in 48 hours. She wasn't with them. So they drew the search around the wreck, which is exactly what you're supposed to do. And it's the reason nobody found her. She came out of that river with a wet t-shirt, 1 shoe, and a plastic hair clip in her back pocket. That was everything she had for the next 11 days. 61 kilometers to the nearest village, 44 to the nearest footpath. And for someone with no kit and no water, the clock they give you is about 3 days. And she spent the first one of those 3 days doing nothing at all. She sat and she listened for an engine, because they'd come. Of course they'd come. Somebody always comes. And I don't think that was stupid. I think that's just what hope does. It tells you to stay put. It cost her a whole day, and on day 1, she could still afford it. By day 9, she couldn't afford anything.
They'll come at first light. They always come at first light.
Survivors have a word for the second day. They call it discovery. It's the day the forest works out you're there. Mosquitoes in that basin have been measured landing on bare skin more than 500 times an hour. 500 an hour. She had 2 bare arms, 2 bare legs, a neck, and a face. Do that arithmetic for 11 days. She stopped counting on the second morning. There wasn't any skin left to count from. She'd watched her grandmother do that in the fields, just to keep the sun off her arms. Nobody taught her that. It was a memory, and she turned it into armor. That's very likely the reason she didn't die of infection in the first week.
I looked like a dead thing, and I remember thinking, good, let them think I'm a dead thing.
Seven stings, scalp and right ear. Her ear swelled up so badly, she couldn't lie on that side for 4 days. 90 seconds. That's how long it took to lose her shelter, her dry ground, and her armor. The forest doesn't build up to things, it just hands you the next one. And this is the part that's hard to sit with. She was 90 meters from a river, the width of a motorway. She could hear it. She'd been drinking out of it, and on day 3, it was killing her. A vine gives you maybe 200 milliliters. She needed 2 liters a day, so she found another one and another one. Over 9 days, she cut more than 60 of them. That's what surviving actually looks like. It's not brave, it's just the same boring job 60 times while you're getting weaker. By day 4, your body has finished the sugar in your liver, and it starts taking your muscle instead. It takes it from your arms and your thighs first, and fastest from people who were already thin. She was already thin. She grew up in a town with a bakery on the corner. She had never in her life eaten anything she hadn't bought. She held the first one for a long time. She says it's the only moment in 11 days that she cried out of disgust instead of fear. And then she reached in and got another one. Snails, wild fig, palm heart, 2 frogs, and on day 9, a catfish she trapped in a drying pool by walling it in with mud. Palm grubs are about 60% fat. On a starvation diet, they're one of the most valuable things in that entire forest. She didn't know that. She ate them because they were there. She never once went after anything bigger. And when people ask her why, she says the most switched-on thing in the whole interview. She says, "I'd have spent more than I got back." A search aircraft went past her on day 4. 400 meters. That's it. Canopy cover there is over 90%. She was under 40 meters of leaves, screaming, and she was invisible. They were looking for a body in the water. That flight got logged. It's the only official record that exists of anybody being anywhere near her in 11 days.
That was when I stopped waiting. And it sounds like the sad part. But it isn't. That's the day I actually started surviving, because I stopped spending everything I had on being found.
It's 30 degrees in that forest, and you can still die of cold. Wet skin and moving air sheds heat 25 times faster than dry. She was wet for 9 of the 11 days. On the 5th night, she stopped shivering. And I need you to understand, that isn't her getting better. That's the stage after. There's a scale for insect stings. A scientist built it by letting himself get stung by everything he studied. It goes 1 to 4. The bullet ant is the only thing on it rated 4. He wrote, pure, intense, brilliant pain. Like walking over flaming charcoal with a 3-inch nail embedded in your heel. It doesn't last minutes. It lasts, on average, between 12 and 24 hours.
I bit the inside of my mouth until I could taste it. I kept saying sorry out loud to nobody, and I still don't know who I was saying it to.
She lost the rest of day 6 and most of day 7. There's a hole in her account right here, and every specialist who's assessed her says the same thing about that hole. It's the most convincing part of the whole story. Around the 7th day, the forest started talking to her. And that's not her losing her mind. That's a completely healthy brain, starved of anything to work on, building patterns out of rain and wind, because that's its job.
Ethan. Mama. Ethan. Over here.
She reckons she walked for 2 hours before she understood what was happening. And to this day, she can't tell you whether she was walking toward the river or away from it. The most dangerous thing that happened to her in 11 days happened inside her own head. It was a rubber tappers camp, and it had been abandoned for somewhere between 4 and 7 years. Nobody had walked into that place since before she finished school. She stayed one night because the ground was flat. And she says it was the worst night of the 11, worse than the ant, because for about 4 minutes, she'd been found. It cost about the price of a loaf of bread. Her grandmother bought it off a market stall when she was 11 years old, and she'd kept it for 8 years because she kept everything. And she says she looked at it and thought, she's 81. she's sitting on that step. If I stop here, she sits on that step for the rest of her life. There's a name for that. They call it a survival anchor. And across all the literature, it's the single best predictor of who lives through something like this. Not fitness, not training, not how clever you are. A reason held in your hand.
I wasn't trying to stay alive anymore. I was trying to get home. They're not the same thing, and the second one is stronger.
A botfly doesn't lay eggs on you. It catches a mosquito, glues its eggs to it, and lets it go. And your own body heat hatches them when that mosquito lands. She had 9. She smothered 4 of them herself. The other 5 came out in a clinic on day 13. She has never once claimed to know what it was. She won't guess. She says people want her to say jaguar, and she won't. She says it watched her for what felt like an hour, and that at some point she realized it had gone, and she hadn't seen it go.
That was the night I understood. I wasn't being hunted. It looked at me, and it decided I wasn't worth the effort.
11 marks, and you can see it in the last one. She couldn't press hard enough to cut it properly anymore.
And I don't know why, but that made me want to live more than anything else in the whole 11 days.
On day 10, she made the only real strategic decision of the whole 11 days. She stopped staying put, and she started following the water downstream. Water gathers, and where water gathers, people live. It's the right call. It's also the call that kills most people, because by the time you make it, you usually don't have the fuel left to walk. She covered, at the absolute most, 3 kilometers in 2 days. That morning, a man called Raimundo Sá took his boat up a channel he never normally fished because a storm 3 nights before had moved the sandbars. He says he has no reason for going up that channel. None. He's been asked 100 times. He says he thinks about it every day of his life. And here's the cruel part. After 4 days of hearing things that weren't there, she didn't believe it. She stood in that water and told herself it wasn't real. He said afterwards he thought she was a stump. He'd nearly steered round her. He said what made him look twice was that the stump was gray and it had 2 dark eyes in it. And the first thing she said to him wasn't help. She asked him what day it was. He told her. She said, okay, and then her legs went. Severe dehydration, malnutrition, myiasis, cellulitis in both legs. The doctor who admitted her reckoned she was somewhere between 12 and 36 hours from not making it. And on the 13th day, somebody walked up that path to the house, and her grandmother stood up off that step for the first time in nearly 2 weeks. She'd set that second plate every single day for 11 days. On the 13th day, somebody ate off it. The scars faded, 9 little circles you'd never notice unless she showed you. And she does show people, sometimes, not often. She kept the clip, and she gets impatient when people call that sentimental. She says the forest was never trying to kill her, and that's the thing everybody gets wrong. It wasn't aware of her at all.
I never thought I would make it back, but I did.
It was just being itself at full volume for 11 days, and all she did 60 times a day for 11 days was refuse to be the one who stopped.